Section 14 of the American Rivals of Sherlock Holmes. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Sean MacDonald. The American Rivals of Sherlock Holmes, The Cloudbursters by Francis Lind, Part 2. On the morning following Sprague's visit to the Tribune editorial rooms, the newspaper-reading public of Brewster had a small sensation served, in Starbuck's phrase, hot from the skillet. A good portion of the front page of the Tribune was given to a news story of the work which was under way in the Mesquite Valley, and pictures were printed of the camp, the dam, and the growing lake. On the editorial page was a caustic arraignment of the Mesquite Company, which was called upon to show cause why it should not be condemned as a public nuisance, of a kind which had already brought much reproach upon the West as a field for legitimate investment, and the suggestion was made that a committee of responsible citizens be sent to investigate the Mesquite project, to the end that the charges made might be either substantiated or set aside. Specifically, these charges were that there was no arable land within reach of the Mesquite Dam, and that the dam itself was unsafe. Throughout his editorial, Kendall had judiciously refrained from making any mention of a possible disaster to the railroad, but he hinted broadly at the danger to which the High Line Dam, the source of the city's power and lights, would be subjected in the event of a flood catastrophe on the distant project. Maxwell, who was living at the hotel in the absence of his family, had read the paper before he came down to join Sprague at the breakfast table, and, like every other newspaper reader in Brewster that morning, he was full of the latest sensation. "By George, Calvin," he began, "somebody has been stirring up the mud for those people we were talking about night before last. Have you seen the Tribune?" Sprague nodded assent. "Well, what do you make of it?" asked the railroad man. "I should say that somebody, possibly the High Line management, is beginning to sit up and take notice, wouldn't you?" "Yes, but see here. Any such thing as Kendall hints at would knock the Nevada Short Line out long before it would get to the High Line Dam." "Naturally," said Sprague coolly. "Great Jehu! Was that what you meant when you were making me dig this Mesquite project over for you the other day?" "I didn't want to drag you into it, and don't yet," said Sprague quietly. "You've had grief enough for one summer, but the detective half of me tells me that there is little doubt that this thing is another attempt on the part of the big money crowd to sideswipe your railroad off the map. It can be done, and you have no preventive recourse. Stilling says you haven't." "But, Calvin, something's got to be done. Are we going to sit still and—" "One kind of a something is doing itself right now," interrupted Sprague. "It's your play this time to keep out of it if you can. You'd say that the High Line people, J. Montague Smith and his crowd, inspired that blast in the Tribune this morning, wouldn't you?" "It looks that way, yes." "Well, let them stir up the mud and make the fight. You sit tight in the boat and say nothing. What kind of an agent or operator have you at Angle's?" "Disbrow? He's a good man. So good that I'm going to promote him to a better station next week." "Let that promotion wait a while. Give this good man instructions to watch every move that Jennings makes and to report at once anything out of the ordinary that may happen. Do you get that?" "I'll do it. Anything else?" "No, not at present. Later on, say, after the evening edition of the Times Record comes out, I may want to get you on a quick wire, but the chief thing just now is to post the Angles man and to have him keep in touch with you." After Maxwell had gone, the chemistry expert finished his breakfast with Epicurean leisure, smoked a reflective cigar in comfortable solitude in the hotel lobby, and when the court hour arrived, went around to the office of the Justice of the Peace to answer to the charge of assault. As was to be expected, Jennings was not present, was not even represented by an attorney. Sprague pleaded guilty and paid his nominal fine, which McFarland took with a quiet smile. I don't know what you did to that black-faced bully, Mr. Sprague, but I hope you got your money's worth," he said. "Every time he turns up here in Brewster, he proves himself an undesirable citizen, right from the word go." "Tough, is he?" queried Sprague. "As tough as they make them. I wonder he didn't try to get square with you with a gun. That would be more like him." "Perhaps he will later on," suggested the fined one with a good-natured smile, after which he went across to his laboratory and was invisible for the remainder of the morning. Just before noon Stillings dropped into the laboratory office. He found the chemist working among his retorts and test tubes. "I fell in to give you a pointer," was the attorney's excuse for the intrusion. "Jennings is in town. He came over on the 10 o'clock local and went straight to the Times Record office." Sprague grinned. "You were looking out for him, were you? Somebody got waked up at last?" "Yes. The Highline people are on, all right," was the reply. "Smith called an emergency meeting of his directors early this morning. 2 of them are Red Desert cattle barons, and they know the mesquite situation like a book. What none of them can understand is the why. Why the mesquite outfit should take 99 chances in 100 of sending a flood down the Timinani when there's no money to be made by it." "What action did the directors' meeting take?" "Instructed me to field Judge Watson on the question of holding things up with an injunction. I did it, and it turned out as you intimated it would. Nothing doing. Smith asked me to borrow Maxwell's special officer, Arch Tarber, suggesting that we ought to keep in touch with Jennings. Archer was going over to Engle's on the afternoon train, but Jennings has saved him the trouble by coming to town." "Well, what next?" Sprague inquired. "That is just what I'd like to ask you," was the lawyer's frank admission. "We're all looking to you to set the pace. You're the one man with the holy gift of initiative, Mr. Sprague. You haven't admitted it in so many words, but I know as well as I know anything that you are the man who started this newspaper talk." "Pshaw!" said the expert in genial raillery. "I'm only a government chemist, Mr. Stillings." "That's all right, too. But that isn't why the railroad men call you Scientific Sprague. 4 times this summer you've dug Maxwell and his railroad out of a hole when the rest of us didn't know there was any hole. What I'm most afraid of now is that Jennings will put up some sort of a scheme to get you out of the way. He knows well enough by this time that you are the key to his situation." "I'm a tenderfoot," said the big man with naive irony. "What would you suggest?"
"That you go to Sheriff Harding and get him to swear you in as a special deputy. Then you can be prepared to defend yourself."
Sprague's mellow laugh rumbled deep in his big body. "I guess I can take care of myself if it comes to that, without packing hardware, Starbuck would put it," he averred. "There won't be more than 3 or 4 of them to tackle me at once, will there? But about your campaign. I have been hoping that the Highline people, backed by public sentiment, would be able to head this thing off. I am still hoping it. It will be altogether better if the railroad doesn't have to take a hand on its own account. The New Yorkers would be sure to make capital out of it, holding the Ford Maxwell management up to public execration as a corporation which deliberately strangles development propositions in its own territory."
"That's a fact," the attorney agreed.
"Working along that line, we can afford to wait, for a little while at least, to see how the cat is going to jump. Jennings is over here to get into the newspaper fight himself. In Maxwell's demoralization tussle of 2 weeks ago, it was demonstrated that the Times Record had been subsidized by the enemy. Now we shall see Higginson and his editor jump in and take up the clubs in defense of the Mesquite Company."
"I guess that is pretty good advice, to wait," said Stillings. "But we have